The crash echoed through the house like a gunshot, shattering the late-night silence. I froze, my heart plummeting as I recognized the sound. My meticulously crafted biology project, months of work, now in pieces. I sprinted downstairs, dread pooling in my stomach, only to find my sister, Lily, standing over the wreckage with a smug grin. I was 20, a sophomore at Westbridge University, juggling 2 jobs to keep myself afloat. My biology project, a detailed model of a coral reef ecosystem, was my ticket to a scholarship, a chance to escape the financial strain that had defined my life. Lily, 2 years older, had always been the golden child. Charming, confident, and effortlessly successful. But lately, her shine had dulled. She'd dropped out of college last year, claiming it wasn't for her, and moved back home, resentment simmering beneath her perfect smile. I didn't know why she hated me, but the shards of my project at her feet told me everything. "Oops," she said, her voice dripping with mock innocence. "It was an accident, Emma. You shouldn't leave your stuff lying around." I stared at the broken coral, the tiny fish models I'd hand-painted, now scattered like confetti. My hands shook, not from sadness but from rage. "You did this on purpose," I whispered, my voice low and dangerous. "Why?" Her eyes glinted, cold and unyielding. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Little Emma, always working so hard, always the victim. Maybe I just wanted to see you fail for once." Her words cut deeper than I expected, but I swallowed the hurt. I'd spent years protecting Lily, shielding her from our parents' disappointment, even when it cost me. I'd never told her, or anyone, that I'd been paying her college tuition, every cent of it, from my savings and late-night shifts at the diner. It was my secret, my way of keeping the family together. But now, staring at the ruins of my future, I wondered if I'd been wrong to protect her. Mom and Dad burst into the room, drawn by the noise. Mom's face paled as she saw the wreckage. "What happened?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Lily," I said, not breaking eye contact with my sister. "She destroyed it." "It was an accident," Lily snapped, her voice rising. "God, Emma, why do you always make everything about you?" Dad stepped forward, his tired eyes scanning the scene. "Enough," he said quietly. "Emma, is this true?" I nodded, unable to speak. The weight of the moment pressed down on me. Months of work, gone. The scholarship, my one shot at a better life, slipping away. And Lily, standing there, unapologetic, as if she'd done nothing wrong. Mom knelt beside the broken pieces, her fingers brushing the fragments. "This was your scholarship project, wasn't it?" she asked softly. I nodded again, tears stinging my eyes. I wouldn't cry in front of Lily. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "We'll figure this out," Dad said, his voice firm but weary. "Lily, go to your room. Now." She huffed, tossing her hair, and stormed out. The room felt heavier in her absence, the silence thick with unspoken questions. I wanted to scream, to demand why she hated me so much, but I couldn't. Not yet. That night, I lay awake, replaying the moment in my head. The scholarship deadline was in 3 days. I could rebuild parts of the model, but not all of it. Not in time. My mind churned with memories of Lily and me as kids, her teaching me to ride a bike, us laughing under the stars. When had that sister disappeared? And why did I still feel responsible for her? The next morning, I woke to Mom's voice calling me downstairs. She and Dad sat at the kitchen table, their faces grim. "We need to talk about Lily," Mom said, her hands clasped tightly. "This isn't the first time she's lashed out, but this is different." I sat, my stomach twisting. "She's jealous," I said quietly. "She's always been jealous, but I don't know why." Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. "She's struggling, Emma. She won't admit it, but dropping out broke something in her. She sees you succeeding, and it's eating her alive." I wanted to tell them about the tuition, about the sacrifices I'd made for her, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I said, "I can't let this ruin my scholarship. I need to fix this." Mom reached for my hand. "We'll help you, whatever it takes." But as I nodded, a plan began to form in my mind, not just to rebuild the project, but to confront Lily. She needed to know the truth, to understand what I'd done for her. And maybe, just maybe, that truth would change everything. I spent the next day scavenging what I could from the wreckage. The coral reef model was beyond saving, but I could reuse some of the smaller components. The tiny fish, the base structure. My hands moved mechanically, gluing fragments together, but my mind was elsewhere. Lily's smug grin haunted me, her words looping in my head. Maybe I just wanted to see you fail. I couldn't shake the betrayal, but worse was the question gnawing at me. Why did I still want to protect her? By noon, I'd sketched a new plan for a simplified model. It wouldn't be as intricate, but it might be enough to impress the scholarship committee. I worked in the garage, away from Lily's prying eyes, my hands trembling from exhaustion and anger. Mom brought me coffee, her face etched with worry. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "I know," I replied, but I didn't mean it. This was my fight. Lily had made it personal. That evening, I overheard her in the living room, laughing with a friend on the phone. "Yeah, Emma's freaking out over her stupid project," she said, her voice light, as if she hadn't shattered my dreams. "She'll get over it." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I wanted to storm in, to scream the truth, that I'd paid for her entire college tuition, every dollar scraped from my diner tips and tutoring gigs. But I held back. Words wouldn't be enough. I needed her to feel the weight of what she'd done. The next morning, I found Dad in the kitchen, staring at a stack of bills. "We're barely keeping up," he admitted when I asked. "Lily's tuition was a lot, even with the loans. We didn't want you to worry." My heart sank. They didn't know I'd paid it off. I told the college to keep my name off the records, wanting it to be anonymous, a gift to my sister. Now, that secrecy felt like a mistake. "I'll help," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I always do." Dad looked at me, his eyes softening. "You're too good, Emma. Sometimes I wish you'd put yourself first." His words stayed with me as I worked on the project late into the night. The scholarship wasn't just about money. It was about proving I could rise above the chaos, above Lily's jealousy. But as I glued the last piece of coral into place, I realized something else. I didn't just want to win. I wanted Lily to understand what she'd broken, not just in my project, but in us. The next day, I caught her alone in the backyard, scrolling on her phone. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay calm. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. She rolled her eyes. "What now, Emma? Still crying over your science fair project?" "It's not just a project," I snapped. "It's my future, and you destroyed it because you're jealous." Her face hardened. "Jealous? Of you? Please. You're the one always playing the martyr, acting like you're better than me." "I'm not better than you," I said, my voice shaking. "But I've been killing myself to help you. Did you know I worked 2 jobs last year? Not for me, Lily. For you." She froze, her smirk faltering. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, the truth burning in my chest. "I paid your tuition. All of it. Every cent you thought came from Mom and Dad. It was me." Her eyes widened, but she didn't speak. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something in her face. Shock, maybe guilt. But it vanished quickly, replaced by defiance. "You're lying," she said, but her voice wavered. "I'm not," I said, "and I'm done protecting you from the truth." I walked away, leaving her standing there, the weight of my words settling between us. I didn't know if she'd believe me, or if it would change anything. But for the first time, I felt unburdened, like I'd reclaimed a piece of myself. Lily avoided me for the next 2 days, her silence louder than any argument. I poured every ounce of energy into rebuilding the project, my hands raw from glue and paint, my eyes burning from sleepless nights. The scholarship deadline loomed, and with it, the pressure to prove I could overcome this. Mom and Dad helped where they could, bringing me supplies and keeping Lily out of my way. But the tension in the house was palpable, like a storm waiting to break. I caught glimpses of Lily watching me from doorways, her expression unreadable. Was it guilt? Anger? I didn't know, and I didn't have time to care. The night before the deadline, I finished the new model. It was simpler than the original, a basic coral reef with fewer details, but it was functional, scientifically accurate, and visually striking. I stood back, exhaustion washing over me, and allowed myself a moment of pride. I'd done this despite Lily, despite everything. As I packed the model for transport, Mom came into the garage, her eyes soft with concern. "You've been incredible, Emma," she said. "But I'm worried about you and Lily. This can't go on." "I know," I said, my voice hoarse. "But she needs to face what she did." Mom nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "She's struggling, but that's no excuse. We'll talk to her after the presentation. Together." I agreed, but my mind was already racing ahead to the scholarship presentation. It was my chance to shine, to show the committee I was more than my circumstances. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about the scholarship anymore. It was about proving to myself, and to Lily, that I wouldn't let her break me. The morning of the presentation, I loaded the model into Dad's car, my stomach in knots. Lily was nowhere to be seen, and I was grateful for it. I didn't need her drama today. At the university, the lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy, students setting up their projects, professors milling about. I arranged my model carefully, ignoring the whispers from classmates who'd heard about the accident. When my turn came, I stood before the committee, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. I explained the coral reef ecosystem, its delicate balance, its resilience despite threats. I didn't mention Lily or the destruction, but every word felt like a defiance of her. The professors nodded, scribbling notes, and for the first time in days, I felt hope. Afterward, a professor pulled me aside. "Your work is impressive, Emma," she said, "especially given the time constraints. What happened to your original model?" I hesitated, then said, "It was damaged. But I rebuilt it." She studied me, her eyes kind but probing. "Resilience is rare. You've got it." Her words stayed with me as I drove home, the model safely packed away. But when I walked into the house, I found Lily waiting in the living room, her arms crossed, her face pale. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did you really pay my tuition?" I set the model down, my heart racing. "Yes," I said. "I did." She looked away, her jaw tight. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to feel like you owed me," I said. "I wanted you to have a chance, Lily. But you took mine away." For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, softly, she said, "I didn't know." I wanted to believe her, but the hurt was too raw. "You didn't want to know?" I said. "You saw me struggling, and you chose to hurt me anyway." She flinched, and for the first time, I saw cracks in her armor. But I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. The days after the presentation were a blur. The scholarship committee promised a decision within a week, but the waiting felt endless. I threw myself into my studies, avoiding Lily as much as possible. The house felt like a battlefield, with Mom and Dad tiptoeing around us, unsure how to bridge the gap. Lily tried to talk to me once, cornering me in the kitchen. "Emma, I'm sorry," she said, her voice small. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I looked at her, searching for sincerity, but all I could see was the wreckage of my project. "You didn't mean to?" I said, my voice sharp. "You stood there and laughed, Lily. You wanted me to fail." She opened her mouth, then closed it, tears welling in her eyes. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to fall back into the role of the protective younger sister. But I couldn't. Not this time. "I need space," I said, brushing past her. "I can't do this right now." She didn't follow me, and I was grateful. I needed time to process, to figure out what I wanted from her, if anything. The truth about the tuition had shifted something between us, but it hadn't erased the betrayal. I wasn't sure anything could. A week later, the scholarship decision came. I sat at my desk, staring at the email, my heart pounding. I'd won. Not the full scholarship, but a partial one, enough to cover next semester's tuition and ease the pressure. Relief flooded me, followed by a surge of pride. I'd done this. Despite everything, I'd done this. I told Mom and Dad first, and their faces lit up with joy. "We're so proud of you," Mom said, pulling me into a hug. "You deserve this." But as we celebrated, I noticed Lily lingering in the doorway, her expression unreadable. I braced myself for another jab, but she didn't say anything. She just nodded, almost imperceptibly, and walked away. That night, I found a note slipped under my door. It was Lily's handwriting, messy and hurried. I didn't know about the tuition. "I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything." I read it over and over, torn between hope and skepticism. Sorry wasn't enough. but it was a start. I tucked the note away, unsure what to do with it. Part of me wanted to believe she could change, but another part, the part still nursing the wounds of her betrayal, warned me to be careful. The next morning, Mom called a family meeting. "We need to clear the air," she said, her voice firm. "This family is falling apart, and I won't let it." Lily sat across from me, her eyes downcast. Dad spoke first, his voice gentle but resolute. "Lily, what you did to Emma's project was wrong. You need to make this right." She nodded, her hands twisting in her lap. "I know," she said softly. "I was angry. I felt like I was failing, and Emma, she was doing everything right. It made me feel small." Her honesty caught me off guard. I'd expected excuses, not vulnerability. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You hurt all of us. You made me feel like I didn't matter." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "You do matter, Emma. More than you know." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging between us. I didn't know if I could trust her, but for the first time, I saw a glimpse of the sister I used to know. Maybe there was hope for us yet. The scholarship win changed things, but not in the way I'd expected. I felt stronger, more in control, but the rift with Lily lingered like an open wound. Her apology, her note, they were steps, but they didn't erase the past. I wanted to move forward, but I didn't know how. Lily started small, offering to help with chores, leaving me coffee in the morning. I accepted her gestures but kept my distance, wary of letting her back in. Mom and Dad watched us like hawks, hopeful but cautious. "Give her time," Mom said one evening as we washed dishes. "She's trying." "I know," I said, scrubbing a plate harder than necessary. "But trying isn't enough." Mom sighed, her hands still in the soapy water. "You're right, but you're both hurting. Maybe you can heal together." Her words stuck with me, but healing felt impossible when trust was still broken. I focused on school, throwing myself into classes and my new scholarship responsibilities. The partial funding meant I could quit one of my jobs, giving me more time to breathe. But every time I saw Lily, the memory of her smirk over my ruined project flashed in my mind. One afternoon, I came home to find her in the garage, staring at my rebuilt model. She didn't hear me approach, and for a moment, I watched her, her fingers tracing the edges of the coral, her expression soft, almost reverent. "It's good," she said when she noticed me, her voice quiet. "Better than I thought." I crossed my arms, unsure how to respond. "It's not as good as the original." She winced, looking away. "I know. I can't undo that." "No, you can't," I said, my voice steady. "But you can stop acting like it didn't happen." She nodded, her shoulders slumping. "I'm trying, Emma. I don't know how to make this right, but I want to." I wanted to believe her, but the hurt was still raw. "Then show me," I said. Words aren't enough. Over the next few weeks, Lily did try. She started taking community college classes, paying for them with her own savings. She stopped making snide comments, stopped shutting me out. One night, she helped me study for a biology exam, quizzing me on terms with a shy smile. It was the first time we'd felt like sisters in years. But trust is a fragile thing, and ours was still mending. One evening, as we sat in the living room, she brought up the tuition again. "Why did you do it?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Why pay for me when you were struggling too?" I hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because you're my sister," I said finally. "I thought if I helped you, you'd find your way. I didn't want you to feel like a failure." She looked down, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I didn't deserve that." "No," I agreed. "But I did it anyway." She reached for my hand, and for the first time, I didn't pull away. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. We sat there in silence, the weight of our shared history settling around us. For the first time, I felt like we might find a way forward, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as sisters. The weeks that followed were a slow dance of rebuilding, not just my project, but my relationship with Lily. She was different now, quieter, more thoughtful. She'd started therapy, something Mom insisted on, and it seemed to help. But I was still guarded, waiting for the old Lily, the one who'd lashed out, to reappear. One evening, she asked me to go for a walk. It was late, the air crisp with autumn, and we wandered through our neighborhood in silence. Finally, she spoke. "I was jealous," she admitted, her voice raw. Not just of your project, but of you. You were always so together. Even when things were hard, you kept going. I couldn't. I stopped, looking at her. You think I'm together? Lily, I'm barely holding it together. I work myself to death just to keep up. She nodded, her eyes distant. I know that now. But back then, all I saw was you succeeding where I failed. It made me hate myself, and I took it out on you. Her words hit me hard, not because they were new, but because they were honest. I'd spent so long seeing her as the villain, I hadn't considered her pain. You could have talked to me, I said. Instead, you broke something I poured my heart into. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I'll regret that forever. We walked on, the silence less heavy now. For the first time, I saw her not as my rival, but as someone struggling, just like me. It didn't erase the past, but it made me want to try. Back home, we started small, watching movies together, sharing meals, talking about things that didn't hurt. She told me about her classes, her plans to transfer to a four-year college. I told her about the scholarship, the pressure to keep up. Slowly, the walls between us began to crumble. One night, she brought me a gift, a small, hand-painted coral figurine. I made it, she said shyly. It's not much, but I thought maybe you could add it to your model. I held it, my throat tight. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, a piece of her effort, her remorse. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. The next day, I added the figurine to my model, placing it carefully among the rebuilt coral. It felt like a symbol, not just of my resilience, but of our fragile, growing bond. We weren't fixed, not yet, but we were trying. And for now, that was enough. By spring, things had changed. Lily was thriving in her classes, her confidence returning without the sharp edge of jealousy. I was settling into my scholarship, the financial burden lighter, my future brighter. But the real change was between us. We weren't just sisters anymore. We were starting to be friends. One afternoon, we sat in the backyard, the coral figurine she'd made resting on the table between us. I'm proud of you, I said, surprising myself. You're doing great. She smiled, a real smile, not the smug grin I'd once hated. Thanks to you, she said. If you hadn't, paid for me, I wouldn't be here. I shook my head. You're here because you chose to try. That's on you. She looked at me, her eyes soft. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything. I don't know if I'll ever make it up to you, but I want to keep trying. You already are, I said, and I meant it. Forgiveness wasn't a switch I could flip, but it was growing, built on moments like this, quiet, honest, real. That evening, we presented the rebuilt coral reef model to our parents, a joint effort now, with Lily's figurine as its centerpiece. Mom cried, Dad beamed, and for the first time in years, our family felt whole. The project wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours, a testament to what we'd overcome. As we stood there, laughing and reminiscing, I realized something. The scholarship, the project, the tuition, they were important, but they weren't the heart of this story. The heart was us, two sisters, flawed and human, learning to love each other again. Lily's jealousy had nearly destroyed us, but my secret sacrifice had given us a second chance. And together, we'd taken it.